Well, my friends, the King of Ireland's son has left the enchanter of the Black Backlands, and he has taken with him Fedelma, who he is now sworn to marry, and together they are riding the slight red steed across many fields, and as they go, they tell each other stories. And I believe it is now time for Fedelma to tell a story to the king's son. They had another little field of blue flowers to cross, and as they went across it, Fedelma told the king's son the story of the Cloud Woman. The Cloud Woman, More, was the daughter of Grian the sun, well, and she made a marriage to equal that grandeur, for her good man Lear was the sea. The Cloud Woman, More, she had 7 strong sons, and the storybooks say their inches grew in the night-time and grew over again in the day. The Cloud Woman, More, as they grew in their bone, she grew in her pride, till her haughtiness turned away, men say, her good man Lear from her side. Then she lived in More's house, and she watched, with pride her sons and her crop, till one day the wish in her grew, to view from the mountain top, all that she owned, so she travelled without any stop. And what did she see? 1,000 fields, and her own field, small. What a fine and wide place is Erin, said she. I am More, but not great after all. Then a herdsman came, and he told her that her sons had stolen away. They had left the calves in the hollow. With the goose flock they would not stay. They had seen 3 ships on the sea, and nothing would do them but go. More wept and wept when she heard it, and her tears made the runnels below. Then her shining splendor departed. She went, and she left no trace, and the Cloud Woman, More, was never beheld again in that place. The proud woman More, who was daughter of Grian the sun, and who made a marriage to equal that grandeur, passed away as a shade. And that was the last story that Fedelma told, for they had crossed the meadows of brightness and had come to a nameless place, a stretch of broken ground where there were black rocks and dead grass and bare roots of trees, with here and there a hawthorn tree in blossom. I fear this place. We must not halt here, Fedelma said. And then a flock of ravens came from the rocks, and flying straight at them, attacked Fedelma and the King of Ireland's son. The king's son sprang from the steed, and taking his sword in his hand, he fought the ravens until he drove them away. They rode on again. But now the ravens flew back and attacked them again, and the King of Ireland's son fought them until his hands were wearied. He mounted the steed again, and they rode swiftly on. And the ravens came the 3rd time and attacked them more fiercely than before. The king's son fought them until he had killed all but 3, and until he was covered with their blood and feathers. The 3 that had escaped flew away. "Oh, mount the slight red steed, and let us ride fast," said Fedelma to the king's son. "I am filled with weariness," he said. "Bid the steed stay by the rock. Lay my sword at my side, and let me sleep with my head on your lap." "I fear for us both if you slumber here," said Fedelma. "I must sleep, and I pray that you let me lay my head on your lap." "I know not what would awaken you if you slumber here." "I will awaken," said the king's son, "but now I must sleep, and I would slumber with my head on your lap." She got down from the slight red steed, and she bade it stay by a rock. She put his sword by the place he would sleep, and she took his head upon her lap. The king's son slept. As she watched over him, a great fear grew in Fedelma. Every hour she would say to him, "Are you near waking, my dear, my dear?" But no flush of waking appeared on the face of the King of Ireland's son. Then she saw a man coming across the nameless place, across the broken ground, with its dead grass and black rocks, and with its roots and stumps of trees. The man who came near them was taller than any man she had seen before. He was tall as a tree. Fidelma knew him from what she had heard told about him. She knew him to be the king of the land of mist. The king of the land of mist came straight to them. He stood before Fidelma, and he said, "I seek Fidelma, the daughter of the enchanter of the Black Backlands, and the fairest woman within the seas of Erin." "Then go to her father's house and seek Fidelma there," said she to him. "I have sought her there," said the king of the land of mist, "but she left her father's house to go with the king of Ireland's son." "Then seek her in the castle of the king of Ireland," said Fidelma. "That I will not. Fidelma is here, and Fidelma will come with me," said the king of the land of mist. "I will not leave him with whom I am plighted," said Fidelma. Then the king of the land of mist took up the king of Ireland's son. High he held him, higher than a tree grows. "I will dash him down on the rocks and break the life within him," he said. "Do not do so," said Fidelma. "Tell me, if I go with you, what would win me back?" "Nothing but the sword whose stroke would slay me, the sword of light," said the king of the land of mist. He held up the king of Ireland's son again, and again he was about to dash him against the rocks. The blue falcon that was overhead flew down and settled on the rock behind her. Fidelma knew that what she and the king of the land of mist would say now would be carried someplace and told to someone. "Leave my love, the king's son, to his rest," she said. "If I do not break the life in him, will you come with me, Fidelma?" "I will go with you if you tell again what will win me back from you." "The sword of light whose stroke will slay me." "I will go forth with you if you will swear by all your vows and promises not to make me your wife nor your sweetheart for a year and a day." "I swear by all my vows and promises not to make you my wife nor my sweetheart for a year and a day." "I will go with you if you will let that be that I fall into a slumber that will last for a year and a day." "I will let that be, fairest maid within the seas of Erin." "I will go with you if you will tell me what will take me out of that slumber." "If one cuts a tress of your hair with a stroke of the sword of light, it will take you out of that slumber." The blue falcon that was behind heard what the king of the land of mist said. She rose up and remained overhead with her wings outspread. Fidelma took the ring off her own finger and put it on the finger of the king of Ireland's son, and she wrote upon the ground in Ogham letters, "The king of the land of mist." "If it be not you who wakens me, love," she said, "may it be that I never waken." "Come, daughter of the enchanter," said the king of the land of mist. "Pluck the branch of hawthorn and give it to me, that I may fall into my slumber here," said Fidelma. The king of the land of mist plucked a flowering branch of hawthorn and gave it to her. She held the flowers against her face and fell into slumber. For a while she and the king of Ireland's son were side by side in sleep. Then the king of the land of mist took Fidelma in his arms and strode along that nameless place, over the broken ground with its dead grass and its black rocks and its stumps and roots of trees, and the 3 ravens that had escaped the sword of the king of Ireland's son followed where he went. Long after Fidelma had been taken by the king of the land of mist, the king of Ireland's son came out of his slumber. He saw around him that nameless place with its black rocks and bare roots of trees. He remembered he had come to it with Fidelma. He sprang up and looked for her, but no one was near him. "Fidelma! Fidelma!" He searched and he called, but it was as if no one had ever been with him. He found his sword. He searched for his steed, but the slight red steed was gone too. He thought that the enchanter of the Black Backlands had followed them and had taken Fidelma from him. He turned to go towards the enchanter's country, and then he found what Fidelma had written upon the ground in Ogham letters, "The king of the land of mist." He did not know what direction to take to get to the dominion of the king of the land of mist. He crossed the broken ground, and he found no trace of Fidelma, nor him who had taken her. He found himself close to the wood of shadows. He went through it. As he went on, he saw scores and scores of shadows. Nothing else was in the wood. No bird, no squirrel, no cricket. The shadows had the whole wood to themselves. They ran swiftly from tree to tree, and now and then one would stop at a tree and wait. Often the king of Ireland's son came close to a waiting shadow. The one became like a small old man with a beard. The king's son saw this shadow again and again. What were they, the shadows, he asked himself. Maybe they were the wise creatures and could tell him what he wanted to know. He thought he heard them whispering together. Then one little shadow with trailing legs went slowly from tree to tree. The king of Ireland's son thought he would catch and hold a shadow and make it tell him where he should go to find the dominion of the king of the land of mist. He went after one shadow and another and waited beside a tree for one to come. Often he thought he saw the small old man with the beard and the little creature with trailing legs. And then he began to see other shadows, men with the heads of rocks and men with queer heavy swords upon their shoulders. He followed them on through the wood, and he heard their whispering becoming louder and louder. And then he thought that as he went on in the shadows, instead of slipping before him, began to turn back and go past and surround him. Then he heard a voice just under the ground at his feet say, "Shout! Shout out your own name, son of King Connell!" Then the king's son shouted out his own name, and the whispers ceased in the wood, and the shadows went backward and forward no more. He went on and came to a stream within the wood, and he went against its flow all night as well as all day, hoping to meet some living thing that would tell him how he might come to the dominion of the king of the land of mist. In the forenoon of another day, he came to where the wood grew thin, and then he went past the last trees. He saw a horse grazing. He ran up to it and found that it was the slight red steed that had carried Fidelma and himself from the house of the enchanter. Then as he laid hold of the steed, a hound ran up to him, and a hawk flew down, and they saw that they were the hawk and the hound that used to be with him when he rode abroad from his father's castle. He mounted, and seeing his hound at his heel and his hawk circling above, he felt a longing to go back to his father's castle, which he knew to be near, and where he might find out where the king of the land of mist had his dominion. So the king of Ireland's son rode back to his father's castle, his hound at his heel, his hawk on his wrist.